Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode. Today we're going to be talking about The Bear Season 2, a show that I quite enjoyed because it was just as good as the first one, and I would even say it was a little bit even better. But with today, I have here with me, as always, Chef Raul
Howdy, howdy.
and Chef Ramon.
Hey guys.
And guys, we got a lot to talk about. Last time, I think just the introduction of the first season took us 10 minutes, so hopefully we can speed up a little bit about it and get our thoughts about the second season. But I do want to warn you, I brought a fork, and I plan on holding onto this fork throughout the whole episode. And I just hope that I don't have to use it at any point. But let's go. Let's do this.
Now I'm terrified, man.
It's here. It's here. I'm holding it. But Ro, you were the most passionate and the most hungry to talk about the show, so go for it.
Well, dude, honestly, this show, this season was, for me at least, was a big step up from the first season. So, like, I never saw the first season when it was out. It wasn't until Ramon suggested that we watch it, and it was fine. I liked it. It was good. But then watching this season, I felt everything. Like, I got super like into it. I got attached to all the characters, to Carm, to Sydney,
would
to
would you
Marcus,
say
to
would you say it
Richie.
was would you say it was Chef's kiss? Oh
Yeah.
yes.
Oh yeah, it was awesome, and it was it was a good story, and it kind of followed several different stories at once. It kind of followed like Carmi's story, Sydney's, Claire, or like Carm with Claire, and then the whole like the restaurant transformation, Richie, and then like the family in general. It even followed Michael a little bit more too, and it kind of you kind of got more context. You kind of got more journey out of all of them, and kind of everything that they're all going through and their personalities and how they're dealing with this super stressful situation, and even Sugar and her pregnancy. And then at one point, dude, in this season, there's even a point where you feel like where you like Pete.
Oh yeah. It's true. It's true.
So, yeah, it's chef's kiss.
And then for me, I still can't. I haven't debated, or I haven't debated enough, or I haven't figured out exactly what season like better yet. And it's funny to say that because like I can see why people are gonna think this season is a little bit better. But I think I'm still drawn to the idea that the original season or the first season was kind of that introduction, right? Like I made the analogy in the old episode that it was kind of like a new boss coming in, a new manager, a new chef, who's really kind of just kind of taking everything in, not changing too much, but obviously he has some plans ahead. And then that whole season was really a kind of discovery and really working with the systems and things that were there, even though they were being changed. And this season was definitely more breakdown, right? It was more about character development, which again, obviously we love because we did see some great stories, like Raul said. For me, it kind of what threw me off a little bit, and then maybe is why I'm undecided about how good the season is because then yes, we did spend a lot of time on just the characters. That I think the whole craziness of the restaurants switched a little bit back, right? Like we weren't really focused on that too much, which is okay because again, some phenomenal like writing when it comes to these characters and some great stories. But I actually feel the opposite about what the season was for Carmi. I feel like this was like the let me sit back and let everyone else do their thing type, and very evident in the very last episode, which we'll eventually talk about. But it really seemed like it was like he finally has this idea set up. Everybody finally bought in, and now they're executing, right? But as we're executing, here's Carmi distracted doing a few other things. So then basically the rest of the team takes on the whole show. And so again, undecided, but at the same time, really, really, really freaking good. And obviously undecided because they're both really good. So
No, I mean, I'm gonna have some questions as we're talking about this, but I agree with you, Ramon. I don't know. I like this season a lot, but I felt that Hulu released all the episodes at once, and it might have been because if they would not have done that, people might have been complaining about the first few episodes. Not that they weren't good, but I feel like there could have been some complaint there. to me, this show did not kick into third gear till we finally got to that sixth episode. And then the sixth, the seventh, the eighth, and the ninth, like they were some of my favorite ones. And those are the ones that just kind of like are in my head and I can't forget them. But some of the earlier episodes, they were a little bit like interesting. Like there was a Sydney episode and then the one where, they're out of the country. So that was kind of interesting from a, hey, I get to see the city of Chicago, even though we live here and we all been there. Or, we get to see Denmark, I believe is the country he visited, which was lovely. So, but I do have those concerns, like you said, Ramon. I think the first episode was a little bit more, that the first season was a little bit more chaotic, almost like their chaos menu. And I like that the first season was, it's so chaotic, all of them. I couldn't even tell you which one was my favorite, because I think all of them had a little bit of like my favorite, what made that season great, because all of them had a little sprinkle of like chaos in them. This one was a little bit more chill. And touching on your point about Carmi, like, dude, is Carmen even a good chef? Like, I almost started questioning that. I'm like, have we ever really seen him like cook or really do something badass in the kitchen? So those are the kind of things that is he though? Like, he can lead, and we know he's a good chef because they keep telling him he's a good chef. But is he really the best of the best? Like, that's what I'm really here to call out.
Well, like every other thing that we talk about in this podcast, we have these characters that have that reputation that precedes them. Like before we even get to meet them, they're already like some badass like person, right? And we mentioned that before too. It's exactly the same thing with Carmi, where you weren't there through his experience, besides like the flashback with his like old New York restaurant, the abuse and everything else. But I feel like, yes, we focus way more on his like mental psychological trauma than we do his like actual making stuff. The one thing though, as like a previous teacher and a manager myself and all this stuff, the one thing where you see is like, yes, he's an excellent mentor. Like the way that he inspires these people and he reinforces them, especially in this season, right? Because everybody's kind of growing and they're kind of getting their own, they're finally figuring it out. Those little bits and pieces, absolutely, he's great at doing that. But yeah, I think you're right. But no, I mean, there's enough there already that we know, and obviously all the freaking hookups, right? Because throughout the season, we see how many people he hooked up. Like when he sent Marcus to Copenhagen, that was like one of the top like chefs up there too, right? Like that's an amazing experience. When he sent Richie to that one restaurant that we'll talk about later, same thing too, one of the top restaurants in this Chicago, and same thing too. So like, even if you didn't know he was a great cook, everybody knows he's a great chef, right? Yeah. And all the restaurants that Sydney visited throughout the time, everybody they knew her, but then everyone knows the reputation too. So yeah, of course, they didn't see the man in action as much, but it's there. It's that whole like, it happened before you saw it, so just gotta believe it.
No, I agree with that, man. I agree. It's like we're not here to learn how he became the best. He's already the best, so we don't need to see it.
Yeah, and I will give you that. And honestly, it probably was really smart of Hulu to drop all of them all at once, because like those first several episodes, they kind of all like blur together, and it's all like build up. It's all kind of building up like the individual stories and building up kind of what's gonna climax at those last few episodes where you see Sydney and Carm kind of in conflict, and then Carm in general in conflict with the restaurant, with especially in the last episode when he's realizing that he didn't have he wasn't paying all the attention that he should have had, and that he didn't make all the decisions that he should have made because he was distracted by Claire, as he told her in the fridge. and then you kind of see Sugar, and then you get glimpses of the past. Finally, in that giant episode with like a billion cameos, with like amazing acting, with so much like, I don't know, there was so much in that one episode. I think we could do like the whole this episode on just that one episode.
Dude, you weren't there to see my reaction, but my face was like,
hell no!
Like I was just sorry for nobody that's only like listening to us. Like I just expressed how my face was just open mouth throughout the whole time as these cameos. I just couldn't believe it. I'm like, holy smokes! Like I mean, it's not like a Brad Pitt, but them themselves have done so much work in other stuff that I have legit love for all of them. So like to me, they were like, oh my god, these are like A stars. Even obviously they weren't like Angelina Jolie or Brad Pitt or Jennifer Aniston, but like they were to me still very amazing cameos that I couldn't believe I was getting them all in one shot. Yeah,
yeah,
I would say so.
Dude, okay,
I think so better.
So in case anybody hasn't seen this, in episode 6, you're gonna get obviously John Bernthal's Michael, and then you get Jamie Lee Curtis as their mom, and then you also get uh, Jillian Jacobs, who's Rich's wife apparently, and
Dude,
then you also
dude, was
you
she on the was she in the was she in the past in the last season? Did we ever see her? I thought we saw her and I was like, was that a recast or am I
I
just crazy
just
with that?
I just
I
remember her
don't
as an
remember.
ambiguous blonde. That's all I remember, is a blonde, and that's it. Not to say
Okay.
anything about that, but it's just that's really what I ever saw. So,
Okay.
but I do like that they
Yeah.
bring her a little bit back later on. They had Better Call Saul, and they
Yeah.
called
Yeah,
him.
yeah.
They were like,
Bob
"Yo,
Bob
Uncle Lee."
Odenkirk. You got John
Yep.
Mulaney, Sarah Paulson, um,
Yeah.
and it just like I don't know. It was just pretty sudden because they added all these like big names into this like kind of lower tier like or with to a cast that wasn't like a giant cast with
Yeah.
like a ton of famous super famous people. It's a lot of like character actors, a lot of more low key actors
Well,
that
before
have
we
their
get to
big come on.
sorry,
Yeah,
before we get to dessert, like, is there any part
yeah.
in the beginning that, like, one of the most important things I think in the beginning that I thought really was really significant is freaking their uncle, oh my god, Jimmy, Uncle Jimmy, really giving them that, like, really kind of like that's would be the stressor above it all, right? Like, before everything
Yeah.
kind of starts, you have
Cicero, right?
yeah,
For
it's
anybody
Cicero.
that's
So yeah,
like, yeah.
Jimmy. Yeah, so it's like Jimmy Cicero, like the uncle. He basically tells them, right? Because at this point, Carmi and Nat Sugar confess that they have the money, right? And but they want an investment, and it's kind of a funny situation. But like basically, they're asking for more money, even though like Michael kept the money, they're keeping the money. They want to reinvest in themselves, but they still need more money. And their Uncle Jimmy's so happy to do it because not only one, his family, but also he has the ulterior motive that he does want that property because not that he wants them to fail, but he thinks it's gonna fail, right?
Yeah.
One of the big premises throughout last season and this season, it's all about how like the restaurant business, as great as it is just not holding steady in the economy. And you see throughout the show, lots of like businesses close down, lots of restaurants. So anyways, us knowing that, the whole Jimmy and the stakes that he puts on the team, I think is what sets the whole season, because he basically tells them, okay, I'm gonna give you the money, but I need you to deliver like ASAP. And I think he gives them what, like 3 months or four
No,
months
no. So Carmi says 18 months
18
Yeah,
months. Yeah.
that they would pay him back in full in 18
yeah,
months.
yeah.
But they still have to do the renovation and open up the new restaurant and then become profitable and then be able to and then raise the like $500,000 that he was going to give him.
Yeah, and so he basically said like whatever the time he gave him, because I think it kind of
Yeah.
shifted at one point because they're like, well, let's push it up a little bit. But I think in general, like the whole idea of like him being like, okay, I want you to succeed. Here's the money, but I need you to do it in this time. If you don't do it in this time, as much as I love you, this place is mine. I'm freaking turning that thing down, and I'm gonna make it into something else. And I think that did really set the whole like tone of it, right? Because then the whole, at least first few episodes, as unexciting as we were making them sound, it does have a lot of that chaos, right? Like they're trying to do all the the rebuilding, all the reconstruction. They're dealing with permits. Like permits was a whole freaking mess, whole freaking
Jeez.
mess. And
Dude,
yeah, so it's a great way to start.
yeah, like I deal with permits in my job for businesses, including restaurant, bars. So like, let me tell you, like it's hard for them to get permits, and sometimes it delays them opening, and sometimes we got to start charging rent, even though they might not open for another 6 months, man. So it's fucking crazy. So I totally understand that. That kind of hit me. One question that I have for you guys is another one. Look, like Sydney throughout this whole season, she acts like she's a partner. Like, hey, I'm doing this restaurant and I'm doing it with my partner, Carmen. But dude, in reality, like, why is she a partner? Like, she's not really bringing in the financials. She's not really bringing anything other than her skills. Why are they making her such a big part of this pie? Where I don't feel like she should be big part of this pie. All that she ever did was like, hey, she came in because she recognized that this guy was talented. She wanted to learn from him. She wanted to be part of the team. And now all of a sudden, in the second season, she's like big into like, this is my business and we got to make it succeed. And these are my dishes. And I don't get that unless they had some agreement that I just didn't catch. Like, can you guys back me up on that or explain to me a little bit more why Sydney's so invested in this?
I mean, you're definitely talking to a person who is not a crazy fan of Sydney. Like, obviously, I love Sydney as the the part that she belongs to the team and to Carmi, but also I am the one person that I was watching this with my wife, and the whole time I'm like, dude, he could just say, "Get the hell out of here" anytime if he really wanted to, right?
Yeah.
Like he can, because in reality, like you're right, Carlos. Like she's not like a financial investor.
No,
She's
no
not
money.
like any. She's she didn't have the history. Which I guess Carmi kind of didn't, besides the fact that it was family. But it's like she was brand new to everything. So yeah, I think in legitimacy, Carlos, and to explain at least what I think that the relationship became and why she is a partner, it's more of like she's the one that helped Carmi set up what they had going by the end of the original beef, right? So like she was there, she became the sous chef, she helped them really develop the team. Whether she seems like that, she's like I don't think she's that like great with people, but the show, like everybody loves her. So there's something that perhaps I'm missing too, but I don't see that. Like I cannot be motivated by someone like that. So anyways, little bits and pieces, but I think that Carmi is just he was at a state of distress. So like such a weird point in life that he needs like that anchor. He needs another person. So it's like, yes, he can do it by himself, but can he? Because he's so mentally fucked up from everything that happened with his brother. We obviously found out that the mom is a huge reason why any of them in that family were really fucked up. And so it just seems like that Sydney became the anchor. Sydney became someone else that is a good chef, someone that is talented in a way or two, and that she really does have the experience to kind of help them. But yeah, as far as financials or anything logistically, I don't think she really does have any real claim at a partner. So it's actually nice of Carmi to be like, cool, yeah, I want you to be part of this.
Yeah, because when everybody was warning her, yeah. Go ahead.
So I do have a couple of things that kind of explain her behavior a little bit, and here's what I think happened. So I'm pretty sure that they don't like explicitly say this, but I think she might have become like the head chef because she also asked Tina to be the sous chef. That's why they sent her to culinary school and all that stuff. And then I think what they did was Carmi just became kind of like more of the owner and kind of in charge of the whole restaurant. And then Sydney was just like the food part of it, like the restaurant part of it, and then front of the house was going to be like not Sydney. So I think since she kind of took over that whole part of it, that's kind of how she was a partner. And then also keep in mind that she wasn't gonna take a paycheck for like 6 months. So like I know she didn't put in money, but like I don't know. But she was also like putting in money that way by not taking a paycheck.
Then I guess I'll blame the show on this because they were like setting up the idea that everybody from all the restaurants were like, make sure you have a good partner, make sure you trust your partner, make sure that your partner is good. So I think the show did a bad thing showing that because it did make me feel like, well, why is she so worried if she really doesn't have any stakes and like nobody else is giving her this kind of opportunity? So at the end of the day, I feel like she should be thankful more than being like doubting, like, oh, should I really go to like be the head chef? Like, come on, like it's been a little bit ridiculous. So I guess maybe that's my complaint on the showrunners or the show story because I do like Sydney, Ramon. I would say I like Sydney as a friend. I like when she talks to you like in a calming way and she's explaining it to you. I feel like at the end of the day, like I was just like so stressed and I'm like, let me call my best friend because I just need to like calm down. Like she seems like that kind of kind person. But same as you, I do have some complaints about like, her role in this whole restaurant. But other than that, I do say that she seems to be like a very lovely young lady to talk to. So I like her for those reasons.
But you do have a point. I mean, and that's another episode in the beginning that's like really significant. And because at this point, I think by this point, Carmi already reconnects with Claire, right? Claire Bear, who's apparently is an old crush of his that the whole family knows of, the whole family encouraged, as we see in episode 6. So it's an evident thing. So it was easy to reconnect. And, I do want to talk about Claire, definitely. Not as much as I want to, but definitely I want to talk about Claire in a little bit. But anyways, by this point in that episode, like, yes, like Carmi's already distracted with Claire and he's already somewhere else. Like, he kind of does ditch Sydney like one time when they were supposed to go try different. That's the scene when they're supposed to try different restaurants. And so, yes, Carlos, it did make it misleading like the show did because everybody was giving her that advice about partners. That's where I was thinking, like, wait, so what if she doesn't like her partner? She's the one that has to leave because it's not her restaurant. So I guess that is kind of, it sounds a little goofy, but I mean, I think that's more on the professional, and that's like her thinking is like in reality, yes, if you're going to be partners with someone, whether it's your place or not, why do you want to work with someone that's not going to be
Dude,
focused, like, so that made sense. It's
dude,
just, it was weird.
dude, a lot of people are chipping Carmen and Sydney. Are you guys have those feels? Like, I don't feel like I feel that in
No.
any way, but
So
a lot of
so
people online want them to, like, get together.
so at first I thought that there was like maybe that they were going to be heading in that direction
Yeah.
because of when he invited her, that like when he said that our palates are screwed or fried or whatever he said, and that they were going to meet at that place and they were going to try a bunch of foods from like all over the city. um so like the way that happened, it kind of seemed like, oh, is this gonna start becoming something more? But then he like ditched her for Claire, so then that kind of threw that off. and
Yeah.
and then at another part I thought like, oh, maybe Marcus and Sydney. But then Marcus was being such a fucking like
Oh my God,
dick
dude.
bag in
Like,
that last episode.
like if you go back to my season 1 rewatch, I said like Marcus should have been fired and like, dude, get out of here,
Oh
like
yeah.
don't even come back. And
Oh,
then
because
this
of the
season
donuts. Yeah.
again, like I'm like, dude, like why are you causing all this drama like in the one of the most important days of your job? And I kind of feel bad though at the end because clearly his mom is not doing well, so that kind of made me feel a little bit bad for him. But also, he
Possibly
shouldn't have
died.
been causing that drama. Yeah, he shouldn't have been causing that drama because now he made it completely awkward. And I actually don't think I want Sydney and Marcus to hook up for that reason of how awkward it was.
But
It
see,
kind of
that's the
shows
thing.
some immaturity in Marcus's
Oh
part.
yeah, by him kind of busting out like that and saying that. But I mean, I do think that obviously that's the relationship. That's where that's gonna be. It's like the Sydney and Marcus, because they do have like a kind of really really strong connection as friends, and they were been there for each other. When they both kind of quit in the first season, and then just through this whole like her inspiring him and motivating him and really trying to develop him as a person. Like, he's very appreciative. And again, this is somebody who he tells in this season, oh, I didn't want to be here, right? But it got to a point where it was like, do I go work in McDonald's, or like, what do I do? So then I decided to join like the food industry. And then so on, like, as he's discovering that he has the potential to do better, Sydney also happens to be one of the people that keeps encouraging him and doing it. So I think there is something there, but yeah, still acted like a fool in that last episode, and he definitely deserves to be smacked. Like, so she needs to make him earn it. But again, okay, Claire, like, what do you guys think about Claire, man? Because I fell in love with her, and I would be as equally distracted the whole time. But again, so I don't know if you want me to go first. Maybe you guys go first. Well, how do you feel about Claire?
I mean, I kind of felt about Claire the way Sydney felt about Claire. Like she's like, you're distracting me. Like, get out of here. Like, you're making things so chaotic for Carmen at this point in his life. But they did a nice thing to build up the fact that they've always had a history. But I mean, other than those cute moments where like you saw her beautiful eyes, like I mean, I'm for it. But I
Says the man
honestly,
that doesn't care
and
for
the
her.
charming
no,
smile.
what I was gonna say, like, I honestly don't have really any attachment to her. If she was to be like left and never come back, I'm okay with it. Let's move on to something more interesting. Like, I'm not even in this show for that reason. I know everybody wants to see him happy, but like, no, like for me, she kind of came and went, and not really anything right now at this point for me. Sorry,
So
that's just my take
It's
on her.
okay.
I'll say a few things. So
There you
I
go.
think that they did an awesome job at casting Claire, because well, obviously she's pretty, but like she is, and the way that they develop the character, like she's super likable. And
Yeah,
they off the bat they bring up the fact that she's like a really like good person, and then she's a like a trauma doctor or whatever, like ER doctor. So she helps people for a living. She's successful because she's a doctor, and then
I
she's known the family forever. Everyone loves her, and then
see.
her and Carm kind of reconnect, and then the she's really kind of mature about it when Carm gives her the wrong number. And the
Yeah.
way that she reacts, she's also kind of like outgoing. Plus, she's really cute, and like, she has a very cute personality. So
I,
so I think they kind of made it all like super easy for us to like her.
I think the problem, Ro, is like, and you were more recently in the dating pool than me and Ramon, but I feel like it would be a situation where like if I come to you and I say like, hey, remember that girl that I introduced you to? Well, like, bro, you got to go out with her because she's great, she's amazing, she's so nice, kind-hearted, and you're just like not feeling it. And that was me as the audience. Like, I was just not feeling the fact that they just kept throwing like all these 20 things of why she should be like amazing and she's great. And it's like, dude, nobody's that freaking perfect. And stop telling me to love her because I don't need you to stop telling me. Like, just make me love her without you telling me the 20 reasons why I should love her. So I think that was my thing. Like, people just kept telling me. It's like, stop telling me. I'll fall in love with her on my own. Goddamn.
All right, see, I can totally understand where you're coming from, Carlos, but I mean, I definitely Raul picked up at some of the stuff that initially is kind of how I feel about it. I think just to kind of not repeat myself with what Raul said a little bit, it's like I think Claire is definitely, yes, besides the freaking gorgeous and already just like charismatic person, she's the one person in the show that is like the most genuine and nicest. Like she's not to this point has been like mean, a bitch, like anything. Like she's just been straightforward, supportive. She's being charismatic. She's been charming. I mean, she's Claire Bear. So like for that
she has her freaked
reason,
out.
yeah.
Well,
So so that reason, you got to think that she like the show wants you to clearly imagine her as like the perfection of what Carmi needs, right? Carmi is still in distress from like psychological trauma. His brother committed suicide. His mom is like, again, we just found out she's like kind of crazy and manic and all these different things. And clearly the restaurant industry is not easy. He's going through all this stuff. And here comes this person that is kind of like that little piece of heaven, that little like bit that's supposed to kind of like elevate his like more psychological state into like a better place. This is the timing right? Absolutely not. The timing is shit. But the reason why I do think that she really works for it is because her being her going to be an ER doctor and being a resident at this point is a perfect comparison to being a chef or being in that food industry. Like who else would understand the chaos and craziness of trying to meet demands and doing 20 million things at once and all this stuff? It's her, man. And that's why you don't see any kind of like, you don't see anything of them like pissing each other off when they talk about work. They love talking about work because they're supportive that they both know like the mental thing.
I finally figured out why you like her so much. Because, clearly your wife is a nurse and you're obviously seeing a lot of Claire in your current wife. So, that's very sweet of you, Ramon, that you're actually reflecting Claire into your own wife. So if I was her, I would give you a big old kiss after hearing you say all those great things.
For that reason, I hope someone clips it and shows us this. But no, I mean, for real, but for real though, it's just I think it is. It's like they both have like a great understanding of each other's job without understanding each other's jobs, right? She's asking a lot of questions about his job, like in a sense, she's like, "Tell me." Like she wants to hear his complaints, she wants to hear his stresses, and I'm sure if he asks, which asshole because he didn't really ask a whole lot, but like clearly those two jobs are like at the same level of chaos. Again, ER doctor perhaps a little bit crazy because that deals with lives, but we're not playing that game of comparison, and that's a daily struggle for me. But so anyways, at the end of the day, like I think yes, she's a great person for him. I think the whole having a history, it's amazing because it makes it easier. It's basically the show telling you this is the easy solution to like Carmi having happiness. But then the reality is that he really shouldn't have it at that point. Or if he does have it at that point, he should have set those standards from the beginning because he didn't even know that he wanted her to be his girlfriend. Like even from the introduction of him not giving her the real number, right? He didn't give her his real number because he didn't want to commit. He was afraid of that, like, oh, this is going to be a thing. And not in a bad way, but he was just afraid of it, right? Because he's so fucked up that he just has all these issues. And I think at the end of the day, it's again, maybe not the perfect timing. I hated how the show ended with him basically like accidentally confessing the way that he, and again, he's exaggerating, but at the same time, it's a dark truth. And to me, that is a story I didn't need, but by the end of it, that's why I love that last episode because that heartbreak to me was way more significant than anything else. I don't know,
dude.
That was too cheesy for me, man.
No, and I'll say another thing that really worked with it too is because the way that they did it. Or I'm not sure if it was because of the direction or just the acting. Like every time you saw her and any interaction that she had with Carmi, she was always excited and always happy to talk to him or whatever. So she seemed very like genuine, like super into him. Where he was more iffy about everything, but that's more like on him. And then well, to me at least, the way that they made it seem is like all the issues that he was having with the restaurant, that he wasn't as available, he wasn't paying as much attention. To me, they made it seem that they were him, not necessarily her. Yes, it was because of her that he was doing this, but like it was his choices that he was making that he chose to like have her do this. Like there was plenty of opportunities for him to like say no or not do this or not do that or whatever, but then he kind of like put it on himself, and they made it easy
Absolutely.
to kind of blame him
Mhm.
for those issues instead of Claire.
Yeah, absolutely.
I did like that shot at the end where like Richard and Carmen were talking to each other, but you could see it from the camera standpoint where
Oh
like
yeah, with the
like I
one
almost
angle,
wish
Mhm.
they would have done
kind
that
of like
when
this.
yeah, like when yeah, kind of like that. I almost wish they would have done that with Carmen and Claire were like talking to each other. At least when he found out that she was there
Oh,
listening, because then I
yeah.
could have seen it from like that perspective. Because I thought that overall that was a really cool shot. But guys, I really want to talk about the true hotness of this season, man. Like I need to talk about
Oh
it because
gosh, yeah.
yeah, but that's Will Poulter, man. Like come on, let's give that guy like some love for a little bit. But that's
Dude,
the
he's
real
so good
hot.
looking now.
Dude, so good looking now. From like when he started about what's the movie with Jennifer Aniston and
Oh,
Oh
the
yeah,
Meet
vacation
the
Meet
Millers,
the
RV.
Meet the
Mitchells or
Oh, Meet the Millers. Yeah.
Meet the Millers.
Millers.
Yeah, so crazy that it just tells you that like again, I felt like I was ugly, and I'm still considering myself pretty ugly, but it's like maybe there's still hope for me. Maybe in my early 40s, late 40s, I can finally get to that level. But I feel
You
handsome.
you you got to start wearing tight white shirts and then dye your hair blonde and let it poof out a little bit more. You're good, man.
Well, I kind of knew he was coming because I think there was like articles about like, oh, he's gonna show up on the bear. So I kind of that was ruined for me. But when I did see his episode, I liked what we saw of him in, and I liked the stuff that he showed Marcus how to be a better pastry chef. So that was really cool. And overall, I like the feeling of being in another country, kind of experiencing that culture, even though I don't know if I'll ever be there myself. I thought it was a beautiful, lovely place that if I could just get on a plane and go there for like a weekend, I would do that right now if I could or had the money or no
Yeah.
responsibilities.
And that was a great episode too because you saw Marcus, someone who probably's never left Chicago, right? And I'm assuming because it just seems like he's the type because his mom, especially being sick at this point. But it's like the wonder in him, right? Like being there and just first of all, do you guys think Coco was real? Like the cat? Like because even Carmi when Carmi went back and he was talking
Yeah,
about like him being in Copenhagen, he was also like,
Yeah.
oh, feeding a imaginary cat,
yeah,
and so it's like I thought that was hilarious because
yeah,
Marcus had a moment where he's like, dude, what am I like? What am I even changing the water for? Like
yeah.
So I think the wonderment of Marcus being there was really great. I think that was the moment that I was kind of like really falling in love for another theme of the show was that every second counts. And I don't know if you
Mhm.
guys saw that from like the very first episode, you always had a clock on some scene on the back
Mhm.
wall. And then as the show progressed, then it started manifesting into words, right? And even ending in the actual sign that Marcus did bring back, or he did kind of order that said every second count. And ties into Richie's episode too. But anyway, so like I don't know. I think that was the first episode where like Chef Luca, right? Chef Luca, um, was the one that was really trying to teach Marcus that the most important thing of it is that every second counts and that everything had to be so precise. And I think that's the one episode that really kind of, not just because of the beauty, but just all the little intricacies, especially because you're talking about desserts, right? And you
Mhm.
see these dishes and oh my God, are they beautiful? And like, I don't know if you guys ever eaten like little dishes like that, but like every little speck, every little different component, it's amazing. And so I was sitting there during that episode drooling because what Marcus and Chef Luca were making, and I'm just like, man, I want some of that right now.
Dude, and then also what they did with like all these different like characters that they added to kind of like I feel like they were kind of like the ghosts that were guiding them kind of like from the Minta Scrooge or whatever, but all nice ghosts kind of just guides in their path to become better restaurateurs. But yeah, because like he was so relatable, and the conversation they had with Marcus, and then also Chef Terry, Olivia Colman, her and Richie, like their conversation, she seems so genuine, so nice. Like I swear I love her. Like every role that she's in, she's like a billion times likable. And then you had
Yeah.
her, and then like all her staff in that restaurant with Richie, they ended up being like super cool, super supportive. And then like pretty much everyone that they had in all these restaurants, they were like like the best people ever, and then you have Carmi, like in all his flashbacks of like all the trauma that he had from the restaurant in New York, but like but he was also in these other restaurants with these great people too that were actually like good people. So it's crazy to kind of see what his path was and compared to kind of what their path is going through.
Dude,
All right,
so like,
Raul.
oh no, sorry, I was gonna say with Will Poulter when he's telling that story about like how he started being a chef and how he wanted to be the best, but then he finally got to this point in the restaurant where another young man similar age started with him, and he thought he was in competition with him, but then he clearly realized like, hey, I'm not in competition because this guy is like faster, better, more on top of things. I like
Talented,
the
yeah.
fact that he didn't end that conversation. Like Marcus didn't end the conversation with being, was that Carmen? Like, I just like the fact that they didn't treat the audience like stupid enough to be like, we have to tell them who he's talking about because if not, people are not gonna understand it. And the fact that they didn't, I was like, oh, thank God! Like they're actually trusting their audience to be smart enough to understand. Like that's who he was. Ro, don't tell me you were like, I wonder who he's talking about. But if you were, Ro, that's okay. But then at I think it's the episode with Richie. Then they show that picture of them together, and I'm like, why? I'm like, now you kind of ruined that episode for me because I just like I didn't need to see this was the restaurant where they worked together. I just needed like I knew the fact that he was talking about him, so I feel that like they did that just to like make the audience feel like, oh, that's who he was talking about. It's like I don't need that shit.
But
Go
you
ahead,
actually
Ramon.
but you actually have a great point because you just said you're happy that the show didn't treat us like stupid. But guess who's kind of a little stupid? Richie. So who needs a visual aid? Rich.
But Richie, no, you really, oh my God, but Richie wasn't, it
Dude,
was Marcus.
I did not put it together.
No, no, no,
I did
no,
not
no,
put
no,
together
no.
that the other chef he was talking about was Carmi.
Yeah,
Now it
okay.
makes sense.
Ro,
Dude,
get ready.
even after I saw that picture, even after I
Ro,
saw
get
that
ready.
picture of Chef Luca and Carmi, it still did not like click.
Oh my
It's not
God.
like,
Okay,
oh,
okay,
well,
okay.
because I knew that he had a connection in Copenhagen. I knew he was in Copenhagen, but like I never connected Carmi to that story. And then
Oh my
now it
God.
totally makes sense.
Bro,
And I'm a fool. And I'm
bro,
sorry.
you're getting the fork, all right,
I'm
man.
kicking myself off the. Do it.
I'm throwing the fork at you, all right? Ah, that was there. The fork is gone.
but no, but I
more
think
fork. No.
but not counting for the fact that I didn't think Raul was not going to get it. But what I was going to say, I think you had a great point, man. I think the show didn't treat us like stupid during Marcus's episode, but I think by the time we got to Richie's episode, Richie did need the visual aid. Richie
Yeah.
did need he still needs people to prove to him that Carmi is a great chef and that there is reasons why he should follow him. But again, that was too funny, Raul. Like, why do it?
Why'd you admit it? Should have been like, I've always, yes.
I've always known.
I cannot be the only one that was dumb enough that didn't put it together.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Who knows? Don't
wouldn't
confess.
have had that picture.
Don't confess, people. But you know, well, hey, for those of you guys listening to us right now, Carlos finally threw away that fork, so we don't have to worry about any threats. We don't have to worry about anyone like forcibly holding a fork at us. So if you guys are listening to us, no pressure, no forks will be thrown at you. But definitely, you know, I thank you for joining us. Keep joining us. You know, anywhere where you want to see us, we're everywhere right now. So. Again, Carlos has no fork, no pressure, but you know, happy you're here. Thank you.
And if you want to comment your support or that you also didn't put it together, feel free to do it. Or I'll just be here in this island by myself crying.
I never do this, but I'm gonna say if you watch the Bear season 2, just at least go to this part of the episode and at least listen to this because dude, I just had to mute myself because that was just too funny, bro. That was I am so sorry. I did not mean to throw you under the bus.
Well, there you go. Perfect, right? Let's get to the episode that we all want to talk about because I think that's where we're at kind of in the story, right? You threw away that fork. Yeah, no, it's episode 6. Episode 6. A little bit more, right? Because we showed our excitement. We showed our excitement. We know why, but why do you guys love that episode so much? What did you guys take from it that Obviously,
Dude,
it seems like the whole world is responding amazingly to that episode. But
dude, this season and forks, honestly, I was holding a fork the whole time, but even the idea of like not finding a fork before coming to record here, I'm like, oh my God, like why is forks always fucking missing? Like, why can I never find a freaking fork when they're needed? But I don't know, for me, I guess it was just like the chaos, man. Like, if anything, the show builds up on like these chaotic scenes and that kitchen scene at the very end. Like, I don't want to get lead up to the very end, but if you're asking me which part specifically, at that point, man, where he's holding the fork, he's like, "Don't throw it at me," and it's just like I felt like I've been in that situation where somebody's either me saying that don't throw it at me, or me getting ready to throw the fork at somebody, and it's just like don't do it because you know the moment. And even if you don't throw the fork, you instantly like regret your decision of doing it because you almost felt like in this mentality like I had to do it just to prove a point. But he didn't, and I'm glad that that episode did show a little bit of Mikey, how he was breaking down mentally. That episode where that moment where him and Carmen were like talking about like I don't know if it was opening up a new restaurant or just ideas in general, and then he walked away, and then you kind of see finally a moment where it's like, dude, this dude is not okay at all. Like he's having like voices or some kind of mental breakdown, and he has to like slap himself, and it's just like, oh, dude, like I felt so sorry for him, but. Those were the kind of moments in that show, besides the all-star cast, that kind of like got me to love it. And there was some funny moments too. Like I definitely love when John Mulaney was getting that talk about the baseball card. He's like, "I will finance the $500, but you have to tell me, explain to
Every
me like
week.
every of the journey, yeah, everything about the did you do with that?" Because he just thought it was so funny, and he really was the only one that I think was happy to be there.
oh yeah,
Yeah,
he did. He did really was really happy to be there.
And the other like amazing thing about this episode is so like the season, it had like this build up where the first few episodes were kind of like taking you through these different stories to build up to this climax of the actual opening where like everything kind of crashes together. But this episode alone kind of had the same thing. You kind of had like you were introduced to like a few of these characters, and then like the younger versions of these other characters. So you had Carmi, who apparently hadn't been home for a long time, and he was already in Copenhagen. And then you had Michael there that kind of like begged them to come home, and then you saw their mom already an alcoholic, and then you for the first time you really understand Sugar and why she is kind of how she is, because the way that she was affected by her mom's alcoholism was different than Carmi, which was different from Michael, because they all reacted to it differently. And then now I guess I more thoroughly understand why she goes to Al Anon or whatever it's called, and then was pushing for Carmi to go too. Because before I thought it was just because of Michael, but now it makes sense that it's because of the mom. And then
yeah.
then you even see her build up on her own, because like in the beginning she was already like stressed and stuff like that, and she was drinking, and then but she kind of kept getting worse because she was drinking more, and then she all these stupid fucking timers, and that kind of goes back to the whole like every second counts thing, like all these timers going off every like minute 2 minutes, and then kind of going crazy. The fact that Carmi is the only one helping her, the fact that like all Sugar cares about is the mom and how she's doing, and asking how she's doing, and driving her mom crazy because she kept asking how she's doing. And then you have Richie's wife that's super pregnant and kind of like puking all
Yeah.
over the place, and then like back when they were still kind of together, and then you saw Uncle Jimmy, that he was like put in that situation where Richie kind of like lied, obviously, because it showed why their relationship probably didn't work. uh and then it was good to contrast that to Richie's episode, and kind of the growth that he went through in all that time. And then but the cool thing too with Uncle Jimmy is that you saw how he's tied into the family, and then you had some random Uncle
Yeah.
Lee with Bob Odenkirk, and then with John Mulaney, and then with the awesome speech that he had during dinner too. But it was just it was a lot. And then also the other cousin, Sarah Poulter,
Poulter.
who
Yeah.
yeah,
Just,
who Paulson, sorry, Sarah Paulson, who's the reason why he probably ended up in that restaurant in New
In
York.
New York.
just really quick, is the Uncle Cicero like? Do we ever get a confirmation? Is he like does he have ties with mob, or is he legitimately like a businessman and he made his money the earnest way and he just has connections? Is that like more with this season setting? Because like dude, at this point, like I haven't not seen this guy be like scary like a mobster should be. Because like most of them are like friendly, but they have that face, and I don't know if it's just like we haven't gotten it and we're trying like he's earning it the moment where he is gonna go a little bit crazy on them, but he seems like a great uncle. Like I just wanted to say that real quick. He
Oh yeah.
legitimately seems like a really really great uncle. Like I
I mean,
wish
he's
I
the
was that kind of uncle.
I mean, he's the perfect uncle. He's the perfect uncle to this family. I don't think the
Mhm.
show's ever like confirmed that he's like necessarily in the mob. I think if anything is more like not corrupt dealings, but maybe something more with like controlled,
He's very
corrupted,
Chicago politician
very
type.
Chicago
Yeah.
politician. Yes, and then
Yes,
I think
very
that's all we need to
Chicago
know. Yeah,
businessman. Yeah,
yeah, and I don't think I need him to be in the mob. I think that's enough because
yeah,
we recognize what those politicians mean to us and to like
sadly.
how we've grown up. So it's like to us, I think it's like seeing him, it's relatable. And but yes, but then you see him in these scenarios, and you're like, man, but he is a great uncle, right? So yes, he might be doing some shady stuff on the side, but it's enough, and he loves sugar, right? Like there was that one scene earlier when he's just like, she's like, I got this, and then she's like, uncle, like uncle.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, so yeah, so he's a great one that we got to see in this episode. But you guys did awesome, man. That I didn't even have to like. There's not too much to elaborate on, but my favorite part about that episode, I think to me, was that relationship between the mom and the siblings, right? Because like
Yeah.
Raul and then Carlos, you both touched on it a little bit from different people, but I think it's just a conglomerate, like all together, you can absolutely tell that that is like the source of a lot of their problems, right? Not that we blame our parents for everything that happens in our lives, but it fucking affects the shit out of it, right? And so you saw that there. And I think not only what it was doing to Michael and what it was doing to Natalie, but I think Carmi specifically, it kind of showed me where Carmen gets it from, right? Because when you saw Carmen in the first season and when he was going through the craziest of not because of the stress and because of the trauma and everything that he had been going through, but those moments where he's so hyper focused and it seems like a fucking mess and it seems like chaos, but he has it under control. That was the mom right there, that whole scene, right? Because you freaking look like chaos, but she knew what she was doing. Yeah, she was being a little manic. She was a little crazy with the drinking and she felt like at times she didn't have the help, and in reality, she wasn't asking for help at all times. So it was more kind of in her head when she was asking or not asking. But then, even compared to this season two, once you even get to like the last couple episodes or the last episode, and you see Carmen again taking this supposed role of like the patriarch or like the leader, the chef, and he kind of doesn't get overwhelmed, but I think it's just that chaos that ultimately still boggles down to him, and he results to anger and aggression. That's very much the mom, and I think that's what I love seeing the most in that episode, because then later, it's just the whole time I saw Carmen and Natalie and Sugar like differently. I definitely understood that it wasn't just about Michael's suicide, that it wasn't just about like a failed restaurant that wasn't doing well. It's definitely someone that's still alive and it still impacts their life, because clearly we found out she was still alive. And to me, I'm like, well, shit, no wonder they are as bad as they are, because not we didn't even know she was, or at least I missed it if we found
Yeah.
out, if we knew before that she was alive. So I can
No.
just imagine the whole stress of knowing that, you have someone that's not necessarily toxic, but it's that crazy, and then it's affecting you the way that it is. But anyway, so it just makes you understand so much more of where their stress comes from, where their trauma comes from, and their psychological like abuse that they have. But yeah, I mean that episode was just crazy. And then you have the freaking ending to that episode, right?
Yeah, car right through the freaking wall. It's funny because I could probably do that to my garage if I ever really wanted to. Not that I will, but I'm just saying, like, if I was to just press forward, I would go right through the living room.
That's funny. But no, I mean that's crazy, because then yeah, that's another thing that it's like they're
Well,
probably, because that was like 4 years before, they're probably still
yeah,
thinking about that like every other
dude, it's
time. They're
great,
like, well, my
dude.
mom
All the
freaking broke.
time.
Ugh.
That's a
So was that Christmas or Thanksgiving, or what holiday was it? Because it was a
Christmas,
colder
right?
holiday, I think.
I felt like it
Christmas,
was
because
Christmas.
they were doing like the seven fish and
Yeah.
all these other biblical things. I just assume it was Christmas.
I think they say
And
Okay.
Christmas. Dude,
and the
was
facts. Yeah.
yeah. No, I was
I
Oh
was
gonna
yeah,
say
the
was
saying
the
shutters.
Yeah, the sweaters.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. Let's all go together.
And then let's dance.
No, I just wanted to talk about the brother, Saul Goodman or Bob or
Uncle Lee?
Yeah, like Uncle Lee. Was he like a
Bob Odenkirk.
crooked businessman when he was trying to like be like, hey, I have this deal and you could get some commission out of it, you close it for me? Was we meant to believe that he was kind of like giving her bad financial advice, guidance, or even trying to take advantage of her? When he's talking to her on the floor, like I was kind of like trying to understand like his purpose, like with the family. Like, is it more like people don't like this guy because he's just like legitly into like really nasty deals that you don't want to be part of?
I think he was just pushing his he was out of bounds.
Okay.
Like I think he was just trying to help her, but like they clearly are too proud for that help. I think that's all. That's all I took it as. Like it was just a stupid suggestion because they were going to be too proud to take it, and it just it was kind of like a easy. Oh, here I'll help you. Here I'll help you. Like here's some money. Like so that's basically what he was saying. It's like I got you with this deal. Here's some money, and it's just like no, fuck you. Like
that makes sense. Yeah,
I have a question. So for in this episode, did you guys struggle to figure out what his role was or like who he was in this family? Because
I mean,
for a while, I thought that he was maybe like the boyfriend to the mom or like a few different things.
I'll be honest. I knew I was going to ask that question, so I Googled what each one of the roles was, just because I'm like, I'm not coming to this episode like and asking you guys like, tell me, because I'm like, I don't even think I would be able to comprehend. So I needed to know and watch it to really understand like the connection with the family. So I kind of like cheated on that.
So quick, go tell us.
So explain it. Go.
No, I don't want to. That's the whole reason why. That's why the whole reason why I read it, so I wouldn't have to.
But I think it was fun, yeah, because it's same thing, Raul. Like we were kind of wondering when we were watching. It's like, wait, so is that supposed to be like the boyfriend
dad,
or stepdad? I didn't think it was the dad, but I definitely think because they showed a picture of the dad before. But no, I don't know. I just assumed it was something different, and then also couldn't tell like besides the cousins, I still couldn't tell like all the relations. It took me a while to really like try to figure out the relationships. But I think that's what works with the episode because you're just like, what the heck is going on? Like,
well, I like the fact with Richie now we understand that he is sort of a cousin because he's part of the family because of this relationship that he got married and had a child with one of their cousins. So it's like, yeah, like okay, now it makes sense. It's not just like a childhood friendship or I call you cousin because we're that close. It's like no, he legitimately had a connection with somebody in the family. So I like that they did that for the show.
Yeah, because I thought that he was just cousin because they grew up together and he was like Michael's best friend.
Don't you know that's why Ramon's my cousin? Because we just grew up together.
I wish.
This is gonna be so like lost to everyone that doesn't know all of our friends. Like this is how George is with everybody from Teca because they're all his cousins.
Cousins.
Yeah, but I mean, it was a great episode. Honestly, I'll be like wondering if when it comes to like Emmy nominations or what if they specifically get an Emmy, especially the mom. What's her name from Halloween?
Jamie Lee Curtis.
Jamie Lee Curtis. If she gets the nomination, because obviously her performance was so freaking over the top, but crazy, but also relatable, and just all of it, man. Good. I think that it matters when you bring in these great actors that have been doing. I'm gonna say television, not to like bring shortcomings into like their performance, but for anybody that hasn't seen Better Call Saul, amazing, great, one of the best shows that if I could say like, hey, what's the last show you want to watch before we freaking like send you off to like prison or something for the rest of your life, like it would be like let me watch Better Call Saul because it's such a good show, and if I could even get a little bit of Breaking Bad with it, even better. But it was so good, and I think people are always going to be referring to this show because of all the actors and the connections. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see more episodes like this in other shows, and they all call it like, oh, they're doing the Bear situation with episode 6. Like I think more shows are going to be like get smart like that. Like, hey, let's get these big actors for one episode, and then let's get them out of here.
Yeah. And to that point, I actually like the idea that it's like a lot of these are TV actors, in a sense, like TV show actors, because it gives them more time to develop these characters, right? Like when some actors like do these movies, like we get to meet them for like 2 hours, and then that's it, and that role is gone unless they're being recasted or you have sequels or trilogies. But I think that's what really works for some of these actors. Like we grow to like see them as like great performers throughout like years of like acting, and then I think when they come in and they're introduced to a show like this, that you already have someone as amazing as like freaking Carmi and other people. It's like it's so easy to kind of like go with the flow and just kind of do what you're doing. And I don't know, I just keep loving all the people in here. But
no, and like no, go ahead.
And let me know if there's any relevance here. So I know Bob Odenkirk is from Chicagoland.
Yeah.
I know John Mulaney is from Chicagoland.
Ooh.
Is Jamie Lee Curtis and like and Sarah Paulson also from Chicagoland?
I don't know.
I don't know. It's the funny thing about Bob, that you mentioned, because he's from Chicago. He actually grew up in Naperville, and if you read some of it, like his Wikipedia pages, he'll tell you like he wanted to get the F out of Naperville. He hated Naperville. He wanted to escape it. He got out of here, I think, when he was like 16, 17. As soon as he could get out of here, he got out of Naperville. He just went on record to say like I hated that town. So I thought we think it's kind of funny when talking about him.
Not gonna stress my comments about towns, but
yeah.
No,
I mean, keep in mind he's not saying Chicago; he's just saying Naperville. And I mean, I could probably, in a way, see why he probably meant that. Says that, but yeah, I mean, we know Naperville. Yeah.
I mean, again, you know where we're from, so we don't have room to talk in a different spectrum. So, but anyways,
I'm glad I changed my shirt for this part.
There you go. Well, I know we still got like a few good things to like really sneak in before we're done, but like, yeah, I mean, leading from that freaking fork being thrown across by freaking Michael, then the next episode is the Richie episode, and his name Forks, right? And his name Forks because
so proud of him.
It's great, right? Carmi sends him to like go have this experience of growth, right? But Richie, again, being kind of dumb, he doesn't trust it, he doesn't get it. He thinks that Carmi's trying to get rid of him, but in reality, he starts doing this mundane like cleaning of the forks for hours and hours. And so he right away from the beginning, he's like, "Fuck you, cousin!" Like he just thinks that is such a thing. But man, by the end of that episode, like I think we were cheering, we were clapping, like we're crying a little bit because his growth was amazing.
Dude, I would put Taylor Swift on right now if I need, but I know we're gonna get copyrighted, so I won't. But I was crying when he was like riding home, proud, speeding in his car in Chicago, and I was just like, I was so proud, man, and like legitly, like my wife was next to me, and I was like turning left, pretending to play with the dog so she wouldn't see me cry. That's how emotional I got with that episode. And if I'm being honest, that was my favorite episode out of all of them. I don't care how many stars there was in episode 6. I don't care what happened at the final episode. Like this one meant so much because I saw this character that the season started with him saying like, I don't feel like I have a purpose. What's my purpose, cousin? Like, what do I do? Episode 6, he's trying to get a job, trying to provide for his family. This guy is just kind of like trashy. Nobody believes in him. His daughter's like, "Oh, mom has you under like," I forgot what it was on his phone. And she's like, "Why does she call you that?" It's just like this guy, all of a sudden, like it clicked with him. Like his purpose clicked, and he was finally like, "I'm going to wear suits and that's who I am now. And I'm going to be like this professional individual." And dude, I loved it. Like, again, this episode 7 with Richie was my favorite episode of the whole season.
Yeah, and I think he was surprised too to see that people received it very well. They're like, he's like, "Oh, I'm a suit guy now." And they're like, "Looks good on you." And then he was like, "Oh, okay." So that was great.
Yeah, and then also you kind of get that moment when he still thinks that Carmi was trying to get rid of him, and then he was gonna throw it in his face like, "Yeah, you try to get rid of me, but I'm thriving. Everybody that loves me, I'm actually doing this now and that and whatever." And because it hadn't clicked for him yet. And then at one point it finally clicks where he really learns that like that restaurant is all about the experience and all the effort they do in making such a perfect experience for every guest. And that's the reason why that restaurant is what it is. And that's why Carmi sent him, is so that he can learn, because Carmi saw that in him as well. And you kind of got like inklings of it, like in especially in the first season. Like those moments when like the regulars came in, and he was kind of like serving them or whatever, because he was typically the cashier. So you kind of got those glimpses, but then there you kind of saw it like at the peak, so especially when he went to present the deep dish pizza, and you kind of saw it like in this high end restaurant, and he's still being his Chicago
Oh my
self.
I was thinking he was gonna mess it up, so thank God he didn't.
Especially with the thing in the back, I was like, oh no.
I know it was just it was crazy and it was cool, but I don't know, Ramon, how you felt about the episode in general.
No, I mean, well, I love that. Yeah. I still don't think it's my favorite, but it's definitely one of my top favorites.
Yeah.
Like I said, at least it got a more emotional response out of me than most of the other ones, aside from 6 and the last one. But it's that for that reason, right? Because again, you see, this is probably the person that was the most like harsh and or I guess the one that we struggled with the most, right? Like we all kind of hated him a little bit in the beginning because he's so annoying. He seems like he's just like a kind of like this is in the way all the time. You know, he doesn't really make sense with what Carmi is envisioning, but yet he's kind of being, you know, carried through. Like Carmi wants him to be part of it, and just to finally see him understand his purpose, which obviously you mentioned, and it's like a huge part of the episode. And then I think for me, what's more important is also like afterwards is the fact that how everybody received him, like I said, and his transformation, because then you see it proceed, right? It's not just from that episode, but then he's like being OCD about like pens, and then when they're doing the interviews, he even turns the napkin so that see if that person fixes it. And so like it's like he definitely evolved to a whole nother level, and to me that was beautiful because this is a character that I in the beginning struggled with like really like. I mean, again, I understand his importance in the show and why he's important and why he's there, but I think it makes you feel kind of crappy when someone doesn't have it together in their 40s. He was struggling with the relationship. He has a daughter he loves, but clearly because of the failed relationship, that's not really there. And so it just seemed like that's the guy that everybody's shitting on all the time. And he clearly acts the way he does that because he does. But there you go. He now finally resolved it. He figured out his purpose and he's doing amazing. But
no.
Yeah.
And even that one girl kind of wanted to like, you could tell that was like she was flirting with him, and I'm like, dude, catch on, like she's flirting with you.
He doesn't need that either now though, because that would have been like a whole freaking downhill from there too. I mean, besides the last episode, is there anything else in those couple next episodes that are significant that we should mention? Like, I don't
know. I think it's a lot of just a build up to like getting the restaurant open, and it has to like pass this test. So I don't know, man. I'm ready to talk about the last episode, but if you feel like you want to talk about the stress test.
No, just the quick detail that you did remind me about is I loved how Thack, the service guy, the oh my god, the handyman, noticed that because of the burnt picture, he realized that Michael probably turned off the security system to the fire suppression system. And I love that because then that's against goes to show you how fucked up Michael was at that moment and how much he was struggling with himself, that he then reminded you about him trying to burn down the restaurant and reminded you about Carmi's like psychological like illusion of him like letting the restaurant burn. So it was another little great moment. But yes, other than that, I'm obviously glad that the freaking fire suppression happened. Otherwise, we wouldn't have a possible season 3. But yeah, that last episode.
I mean, the last episode, I mean, I'm going to need you guys because I feel like we've talked about it, you know, sprinkles of it throughout the whole thing. But I think you guys were kind of making me feel like, wait till the last episode. And then when the final episode came in, I think a little bit of both of you. But I think just because, like, maybe you built that anticipation. And again, it was a great episode. Like, don't get me wrong. Definitely, if the Richie one was like my first, it probably was like my third episode favorite one. But it wasn't like, oh my god, I can't wait for the Bear season 3. Like, it was just kind of like, it was nice. I understood like the chaos. It was kind of, some of the stuff was funny where that guy's doing meth in the back, and then Sydney puking. But I guess the reason why I wasn't really like stressed as they were is because I understood that also this was like a family and friends night. So I'm like, I don't know. I mean, that's the whole point of this night, for you guys to fail and see what didn't work, what did work, and then try again when you do open for business. So that's why, to me, it felt like, I don't know if I should really care that they're stressing so much, because at the end of the day, nobody there is going to write them a bad review unless they purposely got like some kind of reviewer to be there. But yeah, I wasn't too stressed as they were, man. I don't know. And I just watched that right before doing the recording.
And I can see what you mean, but I'll tell you exactly why I like that episode a lot. And actually, I don't know, it's probably not going to sound right if I say that's my favorite episode, but I think for me it was very significant. And I think because it is a little bit obviously looking beyond the chaos. I think at this point, for me, I was looking at everything else that was going on. I think really significant things that happened in the episode, right? When the mother finally showed up. I think that was huge, right? And it wasn't only that. It was, first of all, obviously like Natalie's sugar. She was still kind of very much like waiting for her. That was her distraction. That was her thing that she can't get over. Like, she's the one that doesn't have closure in that relationship. it was great to see the mother there. But at the same time, you know, obviously when Pete went out there to meet her and just seeing her like struggle with this, she just can't. And it's almost like you have to like really get into a really dark place. It's not that she can't be happy for them, but it's like she doesn't want to admit it. And it's part of this weird like family trauma that she can't get over, that it's like she perhaps is proud of them, but at the same time, you already saw it in episode 6 that whole family is just so fucked and the relationship is so like aggressive and abrasive that is just so difficult. I like her breaking down the way she did there. And most importantly, because remember how Natalie in that episode 6 kept on asking her if she was okay? In this episode, the mother asked Pete if everything, she asked him for him to confirm that everything was okay. So it's almost like she kind of flipped the tables on herself, and now she's the one that needed to hear that everything's okay. Like, because at the same time, like, to me, it just felt like, yes, she's trying to grow too, but it's harder for her for whatever reasons. Because obviously, we don't know her whole story, but like, it's harder for her. Well, obviously, the mom and her dad, the son. Anyways, but yeah, I think it was a hard moment for her. And I think seeing that, and if you really looked into that scene, that's very significant because, again, now she's switched role reversals. Now she wants to hear that everything's okay. And then my last thing that why it was so magnificent to me is the fact that everything that Carmi created, he had no control over at the end because he locked himself in the stupid fucking fridge. That his fault because he was neglecting that the whole few months that they were working on it. And it was beautiful because like here you have this thing that he worked so hard to get. He worked this thing that he was very passionate about. I mean, the whole point of episode or season 1 was the fact that he ultimately wanted to build up to this moment. Well, here's this moment. Yes, it's not the final opening night, but it's still like a good proof to him that he has to learn his lesson. And I think that's the best way of him learning his lesson. And it wasn't even just a simple, hey, you got locked in the closet, like, or you got locked in the walk-in fridge. It was like, not only did you get walked in there, you couldn't be there to help. Your team figured it out without you, which is a good thing. And then he ultimately had to kind of confess and kind of accidentally broke up with Claire by all those means. So to me, everything unraveled at that moment, and that was significant to me because I'm like, well, fuck, now I'm really curious to see what happens next season because he has to rebuild up again.
Romo, did you think it was going to be a one-shot episode? Because that's how the beginning started. Like, everything was just being done one shot. And I was like, oh, my God, are they really going to do this for 40 minutes? But, I mean, eventually they stopped. But, dude, I would have been so impressed had they kept it going. I'm like, dude, this is insane.
That would have been hard with everything going in the kitchen, the front of the house, and then even outside when Pete went to meet the mom. I don't know. I mean, again, yes, the chaos was great in a sense. But, yeah, it wasn't as significant because I don't think it was necessarily about the chaos. But I think it was about Carmen definitely learning his lesson and him fucking stuff up. So now he has to, in the new season, hopefully rebuild a lot of that. Because it's like, how is he going to talk himself out of that with Claire? You know, now he's going to have to, yeah.
Well, Romo, what you didn't see is that there was end credit scenes where Claire was driving and her car went over a bridge and she landed in the water and she's dead, man. So Claire's gone. She's not coming back.
Excuse me, Mo. Raul, go ahead, tell your thing. I'm gonna go walk out of this room for a little bit. I'm gonna go cry.
Don't do bad, all right?
No.
We're almost done.
No, dude, and like I second pretty much everything that Ramon said, but because even with that, you still kind of had those sprinklings of chaos and like those moments that you saw, like, oh shit, like this is when it's all gonna go to share whatever. Because you kept hearing like, hey, where's Josh or whatever his name was, or whatever. But like periodically, you would see him kind of like chopping like a master or whatever, and then everything was going well, and then you saw that like the whole thing with Marcus and what's her name, with Sydney, and then kind of like that little blow up that they had, and then you kind of saw Sydney also kind of getting overwhelmed with all the tickets and the system that they had and all that stuff, and then also you kind of saw Sydney again, like that moment towards the end after they were done. You just kept hearing the machine. That made me think like, oh, do they have more tickets, but they just ran out of paper, or like, and then they never said anything about it.
They never said anything about it.
Was it just her head or what? So like, now I'm wondering if it was a flashback of that one time that they set up the online order, the to-go ordering or whatever.
Oh, yeah, possibly.
Richie had a chance to prove himself like twice because
Oh,
like both
dude, he killed it.
he killed it. He
Dude.
took over that kitchen. He did his job, and then the freaking chocolate covered banana that he fucking gave Jimmy, man. Like,
Uncle Jimmy.
so that even he proved to Jimmy that he's not a fucking asshole.
So two things really quick. And I'm sorry, I'm taking it a little bit back to the beginning, but like that one guy that went to school with that lady, he quit the school, right? And then he just not part of the restaurant.
The school, yeah.
But then he was like teaching himself how to be a really good dishwasher or something. Does that mean he's trying to like come back into the restaurant?
No. So I think he's gonna be the one that's gonna be doing that window.
Okay. I was just wondering what his storyline was.
Yeah, but in order to open it, they need somebody to do like an 8-hour online class or whatever.
Oh, okay. Then.
Yeah.
And then my second thing about this whole thing that I want to just really quick, Ramon, you'll appreciate this, but I thought it was really funny when they couldn't use the kitchen and Carmen was showing Sydney about like these are the dishes I'm thinking, and he drew them and it was just like masterpieces, and she's like, what the hell? Like you're drawing over like the Sistine Chapel. Oh my god. It's just another level. Yeah, just another level of how like talented he truly is.
I thought Cindy was funny because when the moment that she's kind of starting to doubt it, and he's like, "Wait, or do you not like it?" And she's like, "Why, are you kidding me? Like, you just freaking went ahead and drew all this. Like, of course, like I know you care." I thought it was funny that he added like the 7-fish dish into that chaos menu that they did, because another significant thing about like him
the cannolis.
over. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, and that's another thing. That's a beautiful thing, because again, that last episode was all about getting over the trauma, getting over a lot, or at least taking bigger steps to get over that trauma. And yeah, you're right. Like all those things, and you reminded me of that, Carlos. That's great, because in that drawing, you did see the 7-fish dish. And then later, yes, of course, that leads to the end, and that's part of their menu. The cannolis are part of the menu, and that was the cannoli. I love cannolis, man. I don't know if you fuck, cannolis are great, but I love that.
Yeah,
there you go. Oh yes. But no, I love the idea that Carmi even said that though, that he wants to retake cannoli, because if you think about it, that's what that fork landed that Michael threw at Uncle Lee, and so that must have been like engraved in his head as a sign of trauma, that fork was in the cannoli, so he was never going to touch a cannoli for the rest of his life, because it reminded him of that day. It reminded him of mom freaking running through the house, crashing into the house, and for him to retake it back. And also the way they describe the cannoli, man, I'm like, come on, hook it up, give me one, let's go. But man, that was a beautiful freaking season, man. It was great.
Yeah, no, I wish there was more shows like this. I think the big thing that people took from it is like, you don't have to do crazy sci-fi, crazy budgets. All you need is like good writing, good actors, and a good setting to like have a really good show. Because actually, Ramon, I know you're not on Twitter or anything, but this show, I think it's doing really great for Hulu. I think it's become one of their most watched like ever. So if you look it up, like how well it's performing, so we're definitely gonna get a season 3. Like people are like loving it. People are like talking about the Bears, still trending on Twitter. So it's definitely, nobody has to be worried about like, oh, are we gonna get a season 3? Because this is right now one of the most popular shows, I think, nationwide, or it definitely is in California and here in Chicago, from what I can tell. So I'm sure in other parts of the country.
Well, like they better do another season, because like the way that this ends. There's so many questions that you still have, like what's gonna happen with Carmen Claire, what's gonna happen, like what happened with Marcus and his mom.
Yeah, will Claire get out of that? Yeah, will Claire get out of the car?
Yeah, shut up. And then also like the restaurant, like that was just the friends and family kind of like soft open, or whatever that they had, but they. Like, is it going to be enough? Because also you saw Sugar and Richie talking about how they only had like 4 reservations for like 2 weeks, or like a week, and then after that, then it was just more spotty. There was no wait list, and all that stuff, and they're trying to do, like, Sydney's trying to get a Michelin star, which is like a big like fucking deal. So it was a whole, like, there's a lot of things still kind of pending, and then like is Marcus ever going to come back from firing Josh.
Or that he'd pick up the pipe and then just started
Yeah.
smoking too, because
When she went outside to puke, I thought is she gonna see Marcus like smoking too?
I don't know, but I think you have a point, Raul. Like the first season ended, and I think I was okay with just if it was the one season. I think we mentioned that last time too. Like it just felt great. I'm like, dude, I don't need anything else. But this final episode of this season, definitely, you need to know. I just can't imagine how they're gonna step it up. And then now that we know that now the restaurant's gonna be fully open, I don't know what kind of pace, what kind of world they're gonna live in. Like it's, I'm excited.
Hey guys, so we've been doing this for at least 6 months now, and I really appreciate you guys, and I really think we're talking about restaurants and what it means to us, the food, but we should get together, man. I was gonna say Ramsey,
What, in person? What?
in person? Gordon
What is
Ramsay
that?
Gordon Ramsay just opened a brand new restaurant like near us. I say we get together, we get to enjoy some good food, and then we
Did he
can be
really?
critics and be like, we don't like this BS food. But yeah, we should do something like that, man, and get a picture of us and put it up on our Instagram. But as always, you guys have been great, man. I can't wait to talk about more stuff with you guys.
Absolutely.
Word.
I mean, and I'm gonna hold you up to that, man. And it better not be, and it better not be any like The Menu movie type of thing. Like I don't want to be burned alive. Like just better treat me to some good food.
Well, if I'm there with Anya Taylor-Joy, then I might be willing to do it.
If you're there with Anya Taylor-John, you're doing great, dude. All right, man. I'll talk to you guys soon. Adios.
Hey.